Howdy, y'all. We're back with another college basketball Q&A, the second weekly one of the year. This is the first week that we had conference play throughout the country, so things are really starting to heat up. Of course, this is brought to you by Home Field. It is the best college apparel in the entire world. College football bowl season is here. The college football playoff bracket is set. College basketball season is fully in the thick of it. The holidays are coming up. This is the perfect time to use code HAMMER to get 15% off. As always, you're welcome. Let's get into it. Kentucky. Thoughts on Kentucky? Mark Pope, Kentucky. All right. The people want to talk about Kentucky. I get it. They rock. I will take a Mark Pope Kentucky team over any of the recent Cal Kentucky teams that we've seen. Schematically, he's a great X's and O's coach, especially offensively. They have so much firepower and balance and depth. They have 6 guys that are in double-digit scoring right now. They're an incredible rebounding team. They're number 1 in points per game right now. They don't turn the ball over. But the biggest difference for me is the intensity that you just didn't see with a lot of the Cal teams in recent years. Look at the Gonzaga game from Saturday night this weekend. They were down 16 points at half, and literally in the same exact game last year, Cal said in a press conference afterward that the game was over at halftime. They lost it in the first half. Like, he knew that. But Mark Pope adjusts the game plan. He has a game plan to begin with, to be fair. He gets these guys fired up. You can see it on their faces. You can see it when they make the comeback. Like, the intensity is there. My concern with Kentucky is their style. They go, and they play so fast because they're so deep with offensive talent. But when they play against a team that kind of takes them out of that style and takes them out of that comfort zone like Clemson did, how do they adjust? Can they win those games? They didn't win that Clemson game because they were uncomfortable and they shot poorly because of it. But this team can definitely straight up play. And this Kentucky, Mark Pope's Kentucky, is awesome. And it definitely builds longer term sustainability for the season and better upside for March. 1 seed predictions. If the tournament was today, I know that Auburn and Tennessee would probably be the 2 highest 1 seeds. Then after the Oregon loss to UCLA, it would probably be 2 of Kentucky, Marquette, and Iowa State, I would say. But it's very early. You're not going to have 3 SEC teams. So as of right now, my predictions for what it will be in March, I'll stick with Auburn. I'm not worried at all after losing at Cameron Indoor. They're still probably number 1 in the country. I think Duke has proven a lot, especially in that Auburn game, and I think that they should pretty cleanly win the ACC this year. Marquette has pretty clearly been the best team in the Big East. They have very, very significant wins and no bad losses right now. I'll say Iowa State, there tends to be a team from the Big 12. I think they're the safest team in the Big 12. They have good wins. They only have the 1 loss to Auburn right now, and they're just really good. Tennessee, even Kentucky are right there. I just know how much value that conference championships hold, and there really is only 1 team that can win the SEC, obviously. Not saying that it has to be Auburn. I'm just saying it can only be one of them. Then teams that we expected, like Kansas, Gonzaga, Alabama, they honestly just have a lot of work to do right now. Are Michigan State and Michigan top 3 teams in the Big Ten? I got a lot of questions on both of these teams. I'll tell you this about the Big Ten. It is an absolute gauntlet, and even more than last year now that they have 18 teams. They don't have a clear top 5 team in the country like they did last year with Purdue that kind of gives separation. I think Michigan and Michigan State both look great. Maryland, Oregon, UCLA, Purdue, Penn State, like, we're already seeing the effects of the Big Ten gauntlet. Maryland absolutely dismantles Ohio State, but then Purdue beats Maryland, but Penn State also beat Purdue. And Northwestern beat Illinois, but then they lost to Iowa, who then lost to Michigan. This is what it's going to be all season long. It's a train wreck. This is why the Big Ten always fails in March. There's a lot of opportunities for good wins, but there's a lot of opportunities for losses. And the teams just beat each other up so much that the conference standings are always so tight, and teams can't really create amazing resumes and get super high seeds in March like some of the other conferences. So majority of them have tough paths in March, so they end up flopping, and people think that the Big Ten is bad, when in reality, it's probably just too good. They're just not too great, if that makes sense. They're really, really deep with good teams. To answer the question in a vacuum, Michigan and Michigan State, top 3, sure, maybe, but I think teams like Maryland and a bunch of them are also set up just as well, if not better, to succeed in this year in March. Start bench cut, Kareem, Michael Jordan, and Nick Martinelli. Shout out Drew Fenney. I know he's a Northwestern grad, but real talk, Nick Martinelli has been absolutely unbelievable for Northwestern, and he really is carrying them. He plays every minute. He's shooting at insane clips right now. I don't know how sustainable it's going to be for the entire season, but as long as he is playing like this, Northwestern is going to be a tough out, especially at home. What team do I root for? Is a good question, because people always accuse me of being like different fans. I grew up as a Maryland fan. I am still primarily a Maryland fan, but doing what I do and covering and talking about so many teams throughout the entire year, I think I've gained this like clarity and lack of bias and really just appreciation for a million different programs. So I'm a Maryland fan, but I really don't care who wins the majority of games. What's a team that the metrics love that you don't, and a team that the metrics don't love that you do? Shout out Carl Heiser and Jim Arrange podcast. The metrics love Ohio State, which after that Maryland loss, I know teams have bad days, but that is inexcusable. They also love Arizona, who has looked absolutely awful so far this year, and they love Mississippi State, who has looked good, to be fair, but they do this every year. They've gone 8-10 in the SEC for like 4 straight seasons. They always kind of fall off at some point, and they never do well well in the tournament. And I think the numbers are disrespecting San Diego State and Ole Miss. San Diego State, year after year, proves how good their system is. They've been really good this year. They beat Gonzaga in that game. They deserve to be top 20 in the country probably. Ole Miss's only loss was to Purdue on a buzzer beater. I know they haven't beaten a ton of good teams, but I think in SEC play, in what right now is the best conference in the country, they could definitely turn some heads. Say something nice about Mizzou. Listen, you beat the number one team in the country. That's a good day. And what I will say that's really nice is the court rush by the students was unbelievable. Shout out Dennis Gates, their head coach, for calling a timeout, getting the KU guys off the floor and setting up the real good opportunity for that court rush. But the volume was there, the speed was there, the vibe and electricity and the respect. So shout out to the Mizzou fans, too. Who are the best 6 men in the country? That is a very good question, but a tough one to answer. Curtis Jones is definitely the first one that comes to mind. He's having the best year of his career right now at Iowa State as a senior. I think he's averaging like 16, 5, and 2. He's an unbelievable defender, and these kind of guys coming off the bench is what helps you get to a Final Four and win a national title, and that's what Iowa State wants to do. And honestly, I think it's a lot of the young freshman guards who probably have made a pretty good case to be in the starting lineup, but they're so dynamic and explosive off the bench. Will Riley's been one of the best freshmen and pure scorers in the entire country. He's been a great X factor for them. Tahad Pettiford at Auburn has really looked good. Jace Richardson should definitely be playing more at Michigan State. Rob Wright in a loaded Baylor backcourt kind of had to be the 6th man and that first guy off the bench, and he's been unbelievable in that role, and that kind of suits him. John Mobley Jr. has been one of the best shooters in the entire country at Ohio State. He is one that I did not expect to be this good, this fast, but he is absolutely cooking. Best freshman outside of Flag Bailey. This class has been absolutely unbelievable. There's probably like 30 guys that deserve recognition here that I am not going to get to. Dylan Harper has been the best for me. The statistical production is there for sure. The ability for him to take over and control games at the point so early on against any level of competition has been next level, and it really is one of one. It reminds me a lot of Cade Cunningham. So it says outside of Flag Bailey, but I gotta shout out Cooper Flag because I've seen people kind of hating and talking down on him, which I really don't understand. I think that's because he's had crazy high expectations and hype. So if people aren't getting 30-point triple doubles and unbelievable, like stat crazy performances every single night, like they're not going to be happy. But people just don't appreciate how much he contributes all over the floor, his versatility. And honestly, I think people are just haters. Derek Queen. He is special. He's been so impressive. He's so crafty. His footwork is great. He's very smart. He can score. He's showing that ability to shoot the 3-ball now. He's physical inside. Like, Derek Queen is a special young player. Trey Johnson's been one of the best pure scorers in the country from the jump. The moment he stepped on the UT floor, he looks like he's been playing in college for years. And like I said, there's a long, long list. Ace Bailey, Jeremiah Fears, Asa Newell, Will Riley, and KJ at Illinois, Thomas Sorber, Yegor Demon, Jace Richardson, John Mobley, Tahad Pettiford. Freshman class has been unbelievable. The guys I mentioned have, to me, impressed me the most, have been the most premier, but the list goes on. Best unbeaten teams left. Who's going to stay unbeaten the longest? So there's 8 teams left now that Oregon lost to UCLA. Tennessee and Florida are the best teams in a vacuum. I think that's pretty clear when you look at the group here. I think the best chance to stay unbeaten the longest, because going into SEC play, like those 2 teams can be amazing, but they're still going to lose games. I go with UC Irvine. They're going to play Oregon State, which is a very winnable game, and then they're going to get into Big West play, and there are good teams like UC Santa Barbara, UC San Diego, Hawaii, etc. But UC Irvine has been absolutely unbelievable. Everything from the eye test to the roster continuity and experience and the data and analytics supports them being awesome, and they are awesome. I don't know if they're actually going to go undefeated on the entire season. I would probably bet against that if I had the opportunity to. But I would go with UC Irvine to stay undefeated the longest out of these 8 teams. Which conference has overachieved the most in the non-conference, and then which conference, I guess, has underachieved and hurt their resumes the most? You could easily go to the ACC and B's, especially in these early season tournaments and the challenges. I didn't really expect the ACC to be amazing, but there are teams like UNC that have underwhelmed. The AAC has really underwhelmed because they're supposed to be this league that is kind of pushing with the Mountain West and WCC and A10 into that power conference group where the ACC is. To me, they've been a clear tier below that, maybe even below conferences like the MVC. And to be fair, the MVC has been the one that has kind of over-exceeded expectations. There's always kind of 1 or 2 good teams in mid-major conferences, but to have all of Drake, Bradley, Murray State, Belmont, Northern Iowa are all pretty good teams. It won't be a 2-bid league unless Drake does something absolutely crazy like going undefeated and then losing in the conference finals to someone. But the MVC is definitely pushing, probably this year right now, above the ACC and Conference USA, where years prior it probably hasn't. That's going to wrap the second edition of the weekly Q&A. If you want to submit questions, I will put out an Instagram stories poll every Sunday along with a tweet where you can put your questions, and I will just kind of take the best ones, the ones that I like the most, and use them to get featured here in the video. If you're not subscribed on here, make sure you do. We're going to keep coming with content all season. Appreciate you guys as always. Bye.